only tell you one time. Don't fuck me, Tony.
In 1983, the United States received an offer so extreme it froze Washington in place. Not a threat, not a demand, a single offer worth $3 billion, enough to erase an entire country's debt. And the letter was addressed directly to the President of the United States. The man behind it wasn't a head of state or a general. He was a rancher in the Bolivian jungle who believed he could buy his way out of history. At that time, Bolivia was drowning in $3 billion of debt. Roberto Suárez sat down and typed a simple proposition to President Ronald Reagan. He would pay off the entire national debt of Bolivia with a single check. His only condition, the release of his son from a US prison and for the D to leave his kingdom alone. Most people know him as Alejandro Sosa the Cold, calculated villain from Scarface who ordered the hit on Tony Montana. But the movie only scratched the surface, while Hollywood showed you a drug lord. The real Roberto Suárez was an architect of power who bought an entire nation. He financed military coups, ran a private air force, and held the leash of the Medellín Cartel. To understand the sheer balls it takes to write to the US president, you have to understand Suárez's bloodline. Unlike other traffickers, Suárez was born into a dynasty. His family were the Rubber Kings, aristocrats who owned millions of acres of Bolivian territory. This is why Sosa in the movie is so refined. He wasn't a street thug. He was royalty by the late 70s. He traded rubber for white powder and founded Law Corporation, the OPEC of cocaine. Pablo Escobar might have been the face of the cartel, but he was just a customer to Suárez. Escobar controlled distribution, but Roberto Suárez controlled the source, the high-quality Bolivian coca paste that the Medellín Cartel needed to survive. Suárez managed a fleet of 40 private jets, with pilots trained to land on jungle highways in total darkness. If Suárez decided to cut the supply for 1 week, Escobar's empire would have crumbled into nothing. He was the silent partner that made the entire 80s drug boom possible. He once even tried to hire the Rolling Stones for a private concert at one of his jungle estates. He didn't care about the price. He just wanted Mick Jagger to perform in the rainforest for his friends. This god complex is exactly why he felt comfortable enough to negotiate with the US president. In 1980, the stakes got higher. When the Bolivian government began caving to US pressure to stop the drug trade, Suárez launched a war. He reportedly funneled $5 million to right-wing army officers to stage a bloody takeover, known as the cocaine coup. He installed General Luis Garcia Meza as a puppet dictator. For the next 2 years, the Bolivian military didn't hunt dealers. They guarded laboratories. His own cousin became the Minister of the Interior, famously telling the public, "Anyone who opposes us should walk with their will under their arm." This turned Bolivia into the world's first true narco state.
Lo responsable sería de parte de nuestro gobierno cae al mínimo precio al alcance de los niños, de los jóvenes y de...
This is the power you see Sosa brag about in Scarface, the ability to move armies with a phone call. But why was he allowed to operate for so long? Suárez believed he was untouchable because he was useful. During the 80s, the Reagan administration was obsessed with fighting communism in Nicaragua. When Congress cut off funding for the Contra rebels, the CIA needed off-the-books cash. It has been widely alleged that Suarez's corporation provided millions of dollars to the Contras. In exchange, his planes were given a free pass into U.S. airspace. This is the secret behind the $3 billion letter. Suarez felt he was a partner to the CIA, a geopolitical player who was too important to fail. When the United States finally turned on him, he didn't see justice. He saw betrayal. The D attempted to bring him down with Operation Fountain, using undercover agents to lure him to a meeting. But Suarez was smarter than Escobar. He never touched the product himself. He had a layer of insulation around him that allowed him to watch the news from his ranch. While his associates were arrested, every empire has an expiration date. By 1988, the US could no longer ignore the man they had helped create. The cocaine coup generals were gone, and the CIA had moved on. In a massive raid on one of his jungle estates, Suarez was finally arrested. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison, but even behind bars, he lived like a king. He served only 7 years before being released for good behavior. And here is the most shocking part. Unlike Sosa, who died in a hail of bullets, Roberto Suárez Gómez died peacefully in his bed. He passed away in a luxury villa, surrounded by family, as one of the most respected and feared men in Bolivia. He was El Rey, the man who proved that if you have enough coca, you can own a country. He didn't need to be a street fighter because he owned the men who carried the guns.
I challenge the finest cow, but there is no extradition treaty.
In the end, he was the ultimate puppet master, and that is why his story is even more terrifying than the movie.
They will probably have to kidnap me.